the dispersal of deities, Yahweh and others' deities after Mitsrayim's fall, the historical and spiritual journey of Yahweh and other deities after their influence in Mitsrayim is a topic layered with both theological and cultural dimensions. Below is an exploration based on historical accounts, scriptural references, and spiritual insights for seekers of the truth. Where did Yahweh and other deities go? After their significant presence in Mitsrayim, many of these deities found their way into the cultures and religions of neighboring civilizations, such as Canaan, Mesopotamia, Greece, and Rome. Yahweh, specifically, became more prominent in the region of Canaan, where he was sometimes worshipped alongside other gods like Baal and Asherah. Over time, Yahweh's identity evolved in the context of ancient Israelite religion being conflated or associated with Yahweh in certain periods due to syncretism and cultural blending. Other deities of Mitsrayim either diminished in influence or reinterpreted within new contexts. For instance, Isis and Osiris influenced Greco-Roman mystery religions. Ra and Horus merged into evolving solar worship practices. Deities like Anubis were symbolically adopted into metaphysical or occult traditions. This migration and transformation occurred as people carried their beliefs and practices into new lands, often adapting them to fit local traditions and political systems. Did Yahweh force them to leave? Scripturally and spiritually, Yahweh's sovereignty over creation implies that no power or deity operates outside his ultimate authority. In Mitsrayim, Yahweh demonstrated his supremacy during the Exodus, when the plague symbolically defeated key Egyptian gods, Exodus 12:12. This act showed that these deities were powerless before Yahweh. The lost books, such as the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, and others, often contain additional context about spiritual entities, their activities, and their eventual judgments. While they do not explicitly mention the dispersal of deities after Mitsrayim or Yahuwah, forcing them out in the same manner as the Exodus narrative in the Torah, they provide insights into Yahweh's judgment over rebellious spiritual beings and their limitations. For instance, the Book of Enoch, this text describes the judgment and binding of the Watchers, fallen angels, who disobeyed Yahweh and corrupted humanity. Their eventual punishment serves as a broader example of Yahweh's authority over spiritual entities. The Book of Jubilees. Jubilees elaborates on spiritual warfare and the existence of demonic entities after the flood. It mentions how Yahweh granted Satan limited control over such beings, emphasizing that their power is constrained by divine will. Legends of the Patriarchs. Some traditions hint at Yahweh's judgment, leading to the displacement of false deities or their suppression by his chosen people. These texts reinforce the theme of Yahweh's supreme authority and the eventual downfall or scattering of spiritual entities that oppose him. While not all details about Mitsrayim's deities are explicitly covered, the principles suggest that any dispersal would align with Yahweh's will to protect and preserve his covenant people and ensure his glory is not shared. However, it is not explicitly stated in Scripture that Yahweh forcibly exiled these entities from Mitsrayim. Instead, the spiritual downfall of these deities likely resulted from exposure of their powerlessness. The plagues and the parting of the Red Sea undermine their legitimacy as protectors of Mitsrayim. Decline of devotion. As Yahweh led his people out of Egypt, the departure of the Israelites and subsequent shifts in power eroded the influence of these deities. Judgment and dispersion. Some interpretations suggest that Yahweh's judgment scattered these spiritual entities, limiting their direct influence, but allowing them to persist in other regions where they were received by willing adherents. The spiritual perspective. Yahweh's overarching plan is to bring humanity back into alignment with his will. The dispersion of false deities reflects the spiritual battle described in Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. These spiritual entities continue to seek influence, but their power is ultimately subject to Yahweh. Implications for believers. For seekers of the truth, the story of these deities serves as a reminder to remain steadfast in worshiping Yahweh alone. The commandments warn against idolatry and syncretism, emphasizing the need for discernment and faithfulness. By recognizing Yahweh's supremacy and the deceptive nature of these entities, believers can strengthen their spiritual walk, ensuring that their devotion remains solely to the Creator. As Psalm 96:5 declares, "For all the gods of the nations are idols, but Yahweh made the heavens." In summary, while Yahweh and other deities transitioned to new cultural and spiritual domains after their time in Mitsrayim, their influence pales in comparison to Yahweh's eternal authority. Their diminished presence reflects Yahweh's ultimate plan to expose falsehood and draw his creation back to himself.